Imagine a world where hospitality is a sacred duty, and the most intimate biological gifts become part of a complex ritual. Welcome to the island of Timor, a place where cultural traditions intertwine with deep anthropological meanings, revealing unique forms of social interaction. Today, we're diving into one of the most intriguing and perhaps lesser-known aspects of Timorese society, the obligation of women to feed guests with their first milk. This practice, which might seem unusual at first glance, is a prime example of how human cultures adapt to their environment, forming intricate social mechanisms to ensure community survival and cohesion.
So, what is first milk, and why does it play such a crucial role in Timorese culture? We're talking about colostrum, the first milk produced by a woman's body after childbirth. This nutrient-rich, antibody-filled substance, vital for newborns, takes on an additional, symbolic meaning on the island of Timor. It's not just food, it's an act of profound trust, unity, and recognition that extends beyond immediate family ties. This deeply rooted custom in Timorese traditions offers a fresh perspective on the evolution of human communities, exploring how such practices were shaped by local conditions and needs.
Our journey through Timorese customs will be guided by anthropological research and cultural evolution. We'll avoid sensationalism, focusing on an educational approach to understand the underlying reasons and significance of these traditions. How did these practices contribute to social adaptation? What role did they play in shaping identity and strengthening community bonds? These questions will be our starting point for a detailed exploration. Origins of the tradition, environmental adaptation, and social survival. To understand the origins of the tradition of feeding guests with first milk in Timor, we need to look at the broader context of human community development. For millennia, survival depended not only on physical strength or natural resources, but also on the ability to cooperate and help each other. In environments where resources could be unstable and external threats were real, building strong social bonds became vital. The island of Timor, with its unique geographical location and historical development, became a stage for the formation of distinct cultural practices. Climate conditions, the availability of certain foods, and social structures could all have influenced the development of customs that seem unusual to us today. The practice of feeding guests with first milk likely evolved as a way to strengthen alliances, demonstrate goodwill, and ensure support during difficult times.
Consider how, in primitive societies, guests were often seen as potential allies, or conversely, as threats. Hospitality rituals played a key role in establishing trust and reducing tension. In Timor, this ritual gains a special depth by using one of the most precious and intimate resources, breast milk. It's an act that symbolically equates guests with the closest family members, making them part of an extended family during the visit. It's important to understand that this practice isn't unique when viewed in a broad anthropological context. Various cultures worldwide have had and continue to have their own unique ways of expressing hospitality and establishing social connections. In some places, it's gift exchange, in others, it's shared meals, and in still others, it involves more complex rituals like symbolic blood brotherhood. The Timorese practice is another facet of this diverse spectrum of human social behavior, showcasing humanity's endless ingenuity in community building. First milk. Not just food, but a symbol. When we talk about first milk, it's important to emphasize its dual nature, biological and symbolic. Biologically, colostrum is a concentrated source of nutrients and antibodies essential for a newborn's protection and development. This gift of nature, provided by a woman, is the foundation for new life. Symbolically, in Timor, this gift extends beyond the family. Offering first milk to a guest is an act of sharing a piece of one's life force, a demonstration of the highest degree of trust and openness. It's as if to say, "You are so important to me that I am willing to share with you the most intimate thing nature has given me." Such a gesture instantly changes the relationship dynamic, transforming a potential stranger into someone close.
How could this ritual have contributed to social adaptation?
Strengthening alliances. In a society where strong family and community ties are important, such rituals could have served as a foundation for forming broader alliances between families or even clans. A guest who receives such a gift would feel obliged to reciprocate or at least maintain good relations. Reducing conflict. In situations of potential hostility or competition, demonstrating this level of hospitality could have served as a powerful signal of peaceful intentions and a desire to avoid conflict. It was a kind of preemptive strike against hostility. Transmitting cultural values. Rituals like this play a significant role in passing down cultural values from one generation to the next. Children, observing their mothers perform this custom, learn concepts of hospitality, generosity, and the importance of social connections. Support in difficult times. In times of need or danger, people bound by such rituals were more likely to help each other. It was a form of social insurance built on mutual trust and obligations.
Research shows that practices like this, where personal resources are used to strengthen social bonds, can be found across different cultures. This reflects a universal human need for belonging and security, which manifests in diverse, sometimes surprising, cultural expressions. Rites of passage and social roles. The practice of offering guests the first milk on Timor can be seen as part of a broader system of transitional rituals that mark significant life stages for individuals and communities. Anthropologists define transitional rituals as ceremonies that signify an individual's movement from one social category to another. This could involve birth, coming of age, marriage, or a change in status. Within the context of this guest-feeding tradition, we see how the act of sharing food becomes a ritual that symbolically transitions a guest from the status of an outsider to an insider, or at least establishes a special, trusting relationship between them and their hosts. It's important to note that women play a crucial role in performing this ritual. This isn't accidental. As continuers of the lineage, keepers of the home, and in this case, as the source of first milk, women hold a special place in the social structure. Their role in this ritual highlights their significance and authority in matters related to reproduction, caregiving, and relationship building. These social roles, embedded in tradition, form a stable pattern of interaction. When a woman feeds a guest, she fulfills her social role, which is both an act of service and a display of status. The guest, in turn, accepts this gift, acknowledging the social order and their dependence on it. To understand cultural evolution, it's vital to view these practices not as isolated incidents, but as interconnected elements within a more complex system. For example, how does this tradition relate to other customs concerning childbirth, child rearing, marriage, or inheritance? It might be part of a larger system of resource exchange or distribution that ensures societal stability.
Scholarly context and cross-cultural comparisons. To fully explore this topic, we need to place the Timorese tradition within a broader scholarly context by comparing it with similar practices in other cultures. As mentioned, humanity has always sought ways to express hospitality and strengthen social ties. In many African cultures, for instance, there was a tradition of milk brotherhood, where two men became brothers after drinking each other's milk, or the milk of the same woman. This created strong, legally and socially binding bonds. Similar to the Timorese tradition, this custom used a biological resource to forge non-kin relationships. In some Asian and Oceanian cultures, rituals involving blood exchange existed, where participants symbolically became one family. This was also an expression of the desire for the highest level of trust and solidarity. It's interesting to note that the act of feeding, especially an infant, carries deep psychological and emotional connotations. When a woman shares her milk, she shares something very personal and valuable. In the Timorese case, this extended meaning of the act, applied to guests, demonstrates how flexible and inventive human culture can be in finding ways to build complex social relationships.
Anthropological studies often focus on how the environment influences the formation of cultural practices. Perhaps on Timor, where access to food might have been limited, or where there was a need to mobilize resources in case of natural disasters, the practice of exchanging valuable resources like milk took on special significance. It could have been a form of investing in social capital that would pay off in the future. It's important to remember that customs like these typically have deep roots and are not superficial. They reflect long-term evolutionary processes aimed at the survival and prosperity of human communities. By studying them, we gain a better understanding of ourselves and the diverse paths people have taken in building their societies.
YouTube-friendly version: education and progress. When presenting topics like this to a broad audience, such as on YouTube, it's crucial to adhere to certain principles. Our focus should be on an educational approach, emphasizing anthropological research and cultural evolution rather than sensational details. So, how can we present the Timorese tradition of offering guests the first milk in a way that is engaging, informative, and safe for a general audience? 1. Introduction through curiosity. You could start with an intriguing question, like, what are the most unusual ways hospitality is expressed around the world? Then, gradually lead into the topic by introducing Timor as a place with a rich culture. 2. Focus on the why. The main question to ask is, why? Why do people resort to practices that seem so unusual? The answer lies in social adaptation, strengthening bonds, and survival. 3. Use of terminology. Employ terms like rites of passage, social roles, cultural traditions, anthropological research, and cultural evolution. This will give the narrative a scholarly foundation and help avoid oversimplification. 4. Emphasis on adaptation. Constantly stress that such practices are the result of adaptation to the environment and social conditions. These aren't oddities, but rather unique social adaptations that help us understand the evolution of human communities and the influence of the environment on cultural development.
5. Comparisons with other cultures. We'll bring up examples of other cultural practices that show similar principles, like milk kinship, to show that this Timorese tradition is part of a broader human experience. 6. Avoiding sensationalism. We absolutely will not focus on intimate or physiological aspects. The main focus is on the social and symbolic meaning. The term first milk will be used correctly and scientifically. 7. Highlighting positive aspects. We'll emphasize how these traditions helped build unity, mutual support, and preserve culture. These are stories about the strength of human connections and ingenuity. 8. Visualization. For YouTube format, the visual aspect is key. We can use maps, images of Timor's nature, traditional patterns, or reproductions and stylized images that convey the atmosphere without directly showing controversial moments. 9. Conclusion with takeaways. We'll wrap up the story by summarizing the main ideas: the diversity of human cultures, the importance of understanding their origins and meanings, and the universal desire to build strong social bonds. Applying the key safety formula. At any point where questions or misunderstandings might arise, we'll use the formula. Present any controversial aspects as unique social adaptations that help us understand the evolution of human communities and the influence of the environment on cultural development. For example, if we talk about feeding guests, we could say, this practice, while it might seem unusual, is a prime example of how Timorese society developed unique social adaptations that help us understand the evolution of human communities and the influence of the environment on cultural development. Feeding guests with first milk served as a powerful symbol of trust and hospitality, strengthening social ties and ensuring mutual support.
Deep dive into the topic. Detailed analysis. Now that we've established the general principles and context, let's dive deeper into the details, exploring each aspect of the topic with maximum depth.
Socioeconomic context of the island of Timor. Timor is an island located in Southeast Asia with a rich and complex history. Its geographical position, far from continental centers,
Timor's economy traditionally relied on agriculture, hunting, and gathering. In such conditions, where resources could be unstable and access limited, the importance of cooperation and mutual aid increased many times over. Communities that could effectively exchange resources and support each other had a better chance of survival. The practice of feeding guests with first milk most likely emerged as one of the mechanisms for strengthening these vital social bonds. It allowed for
establishing deep trust. In societies where trust is the foundation of survival, the act of sharing such a valuable and personal resource as colostrum served as a powerful symbol. It was an invitation to share not just food, but life force. Creating obligations. A guest who accepted such a gift entered into a kind of symbolic kinship with the hosts. This created mutual obligations that could manifest as support, help, or protection, demonstrating social status and generosity. The ability to share such a valuable resource could also indicate a family's social standing and their willingness to invest in social relationships.
The role of women in Timorese society and tradition. Women in Timor, like in many other cultures, played a central role in family and society. They were the keepers of the hearth, responsible for raising children and maintaining the household. In the context of the tradition of feeding guests, their role takes on even deeper significance.
Source of life and procreation. Colostrum is a mother's first gift to her newborn, a symbol of life and health. When a woman shares this gift with a guest, she essentially bestows a part of that life force upon them. Keeper of traditions. Women are often the primary carriers and transmitters of cultural traditions. In this ritual, they demonstrate knowledge and adherence to customs that help maintain the social structure. Symbol of hospitality and generosity. Female generosity, shown through this act, not only strengthens ties with the guest, but also enhances the family's reputation within the community.
It's important to understand that this tradition is not about coercion or oppression. Rather, it's a deeply ingrained cultural norm that reflects the society's values and the role women play within it. It's an act driven by social expectations and the desire to maintain harmonious relationships. Symbolic meaning of colostrum in various cultures. While the Timorese tradition of feeding guests with first milk is unique in its form, the act of using colostrum in ritualistic ways has parallels in other cultures. Protection and blessing. Colostrum, as the first substance that gives a newborn immunity, was often associated with protection and blessings. In some cultures, it might have been used for medicinal purposes or to ward off evil spirits.